Well, good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. The saga of Jussie Smollett entered a pretty intense new phase today. A tale of victimhood is now a tale of unimaginable hubris. Smollett stands charged with a felony for plotting his own assault from the very beginning. Tonight, we'll investigate how this happened, why it happened. We'll take a close look at Smollett's defenders who dismissed doubts about this story, doubts that any reasonable person would have had from day one, as conspiracy theories. Piers will join us, too. But first, a rundown of everything that's happened today in Chicago. And for that, we are joined by Fox's Trace Gallagher. Trace?
And Tucker, the media presence was immense for the Jussie Smollett bond hearing, but in the end, the courtroom drama could not hold a candle to what happened outside. In fact, while Smollett was settling up his $100,000 bond, a prosecutor from the Cook County State Attorney's Office spent 20-plus minutes detailing the entire case, including statements from the brothers who claimed Smollett staged the whole thing. Watch.
Smollett stated that he wanted them to appear to attack him on the evening of January 28, 2019, near his apartment building in Streeterville. Defendant Smollett also stated he wanted the brothers to catch his attention by calling him an Empire F, Empire N.
Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, who was deferential to Smollett's initial claim, also lashed out today, saying he was offended by the actor's actions. Watch.
How can an individual who's been embraced by the city of Chicago turn around and slap everyone in this city in the face by making these false claims?
And as Chicago Tribune columnist John Cass points out, Chicago police solve about 17% of the city's thousands of homicides. Yet, even with the department's thin resources, 24 investigators were assigned to the Smollett case. And today, Superintendent Johnson cited that. Watch.
As I look out into the crowd, I just wish that the families of gun violence in this city got this much attention, because that's who really deserves the amount of attention that we're giving to this particular incident.
Johnson went on to say that he realizes the city of Chicago has a racial divide and that it's hard for the city and country to come together. He also wonders how this might impact future cases. Listen.
My concern is that hate crimes will now publicly be met with a level of skepticism that previously didn't happen.
And we should note Smollett could also face federal charges for allegedly sending himself a phony threat letter containing white powder, which turned out to be Tylenol. His next court appearance, March 14th. Tucker.
Trace Gallagher, thanks for that. Well, there is at least one big unanswered question in the case of Jussie Smollett tonight. Why did this happen? Why would a popular actor on a network TV show, someone who's rich and successful and famous, pay people to assault him and risk going to jail in the process? Well, at a press conference in Chicago today, the police superintendent wondered the same thing.
I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile?
Well, that's a fair question. What Smollett did was not simply illegal and weird. It was terrible for the country. So why did he do it? Well, the short answer appears to be he wanted a raise at work, and he thought this would get him that. The broader answer, the one that we should all think about, meditate on, is that Smollett was simply responding to the incentives that American society has created for him. Smollett pretended to be a victim because we reward victims. We've decided that it's more heroic to suffer than it is to achieve. That's the message of our culture, our politics, our workplaces. Jussie Smollett was simply doing his best to get ahead according to the rules that others made. And in fact, had his hoax succeeded, there is no doubt Smollett would have been richly rewarded for it. He'd probably get a significant bump in pay and an extended segment on Colbert. He would have been a hero. So Jussie Smollett was not crazy. He knew exactly what he was doing. Faking a hate crime was an entrepreneurial move. In modern America, victimhood is power. That's why so many powerful people claim it. It's why Elizabeth Warren pretended to be an American Indian. It's why at every low point during the entire span of his political career, Barack Obama invoked bias. It's why so many politicians do the same today. I have suffered. You cannot criticize me. The academic left has constructed an entire theology around the holiness of victimhood. It's called intersectionality. It comes with an elaborate rating system in which every group in America is assessed according to how much it has suffered. The more your group says it has been discriminated against, the more moral authority you receive. It's a pretty good deal for a lot of people, and they have no interest in changing it. And that explains why so many on the left initially jumped to Jussie Smollett's defense. They weren't simply defending him, they were defending identity politics. We could give you any number of examples of this, but we'll skip ahead to the most nauseating one of all. Watch anchor Robin Roberts of ABC, quote, News, beam with joy after Smollett finishes the most dishonest performance of his life, and then tell him his lies are beautiful.
I still want to believe, with everything that has happened, that there's something called justice. Because if I stop believing that, then what's it all for? Thank you, Jussie.
Thank you, Jussie. Well, before he claimed that white supremacists beat him up on the street, most people had never heard of Jussie Smollett. And after he became a victim, everybody wanted to be his friend. Here's Don Lemon over on CNN bragging about how he texts his new pal Jussie every single day. He's got Jussie's cell number. That's how close they are. Really tight.
My concern is for him.
Right, yeah. Right.
And for his well-being. Every day, I say, I know you think I'm annoying. I can show you a text. I know you think I'm annoying, but I just want to know that you're doing, that you're okay.
Yeah.
If you need somebody, you can talk to me, because there are not a lot of us out there.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Sometimes he responds, sometimes he doesn't. He responds and says, you are not annoying.
You can talk to me, Don Lemon says, because there aren't a lot of us out there. Well, here's the translation. Us means people who've been oppressed in the ways that Jussie Smollett has been oppressed. Lemon is letting you know that he's in that group too. Yes, he's a highly paid news anchor with his own TV show, and yet, like Jussie Smollett, Don Lemon is a holy victim. So there's a mad scramble over who's the victim here. Who is the victim? Well, there is one. What Smollett did was not a victimless crime. There's no such thing as that. An entire group of people did get slandered by this hoax. Regular people from outside the coastal cities. People with the wrong political beliefs and the wrong skin color. Smollett and his many defenders savagely attacked these people and are not apologizing for doing it. Instead, they're telling you hear this everywhere, that the real losers here are the authentic victims of hate crimes who won't be believed the next time. Okay, that's fine. But what about the innocent Americans they just poured venom on for 2 weeks because it matched some bigoted stereotype they had about middle America? What about them? There's no mention of them. Don Lemon would very much like to keep up those attacks on those people. Attacking them allows him to feel oppressed. That is why when Smollett was finally caught, Lemon reacted in a very puzzling way. He didn't seem especially concerned that his buddy had lied to further divide the country to hurt America, which he did. No, that wasn't the real problem. The real problem, according to Don Lemon, is that Smollett's arrest might discredit the cult of victimhood.
This is playing out every single moment in cable news. Sean Hannity's going to eat Jussie Smollett's lunch every single second. Tucker Carlson is going to eat Jussie Smollett's lunch every single second.
Yeah, because when you tell the truth about a hate hoax, you're the real hater. What's the cost of this attitude so floridly on display to our society? What does it do to us? Well, think of it this way. What would happen to your kids if you woke them up every morning by telling them that they were victims? No matter how hard they worked, people would always hate them just for who they are. What if you did that? Would that be good parenting? Would it make your kids stronger, happier, more successful? No, it wouldn't. And good parents would never do that. Good parents tell their kids to take responsibility for their lives, not to blame others, to work as hard as they can to overcome obstacles. That's what good parents of all races and all backgrounds tell their kids. And if you don't believe it, just ask 10 well-adjusted, accomplished people if their parents allowed them to feel like victims. Again, it doesn't matter where they're from or what they look like. Ask them, did your parents tell you you're a victim? And not one of them will say yes. And yet we tell our citizens just the opposite. And you see the effects very clearly in the workplace, for example. In the years after the 2008 recession, there was an enormous surge of claims of workplace bias of all kinds. There is still no evidence that bigotry itself increased at all during those years. And yet when people felt threatened by a teetering economy, they knew that claiming victimhood status would give them an advantage. Can you blame them? No, you really can't. Not really. They didn't write the rules of our society. They're just following the rules that people like Don Lemon wrote. but at great cost. Piers Morgan is editor-at-large of DailyMail.com and a keen observer of everything that happens in the world. He joins us today. So, Piers, as a guy who's been in the news business for a long time, you must be wondering, why were the reporters following this the most credulous of all? Why didn't they smell a rat?
Well, it was the perfect storm, wasn't it, Tucker? This is where the victimhood culture that you so brilliantly articulated there meets Trump derangement syndrome, this disease which has afflicted so many, particularly liberal celebrities. And I think in Jussie Smollett, you had greed as a motivation, but you also had, he wanted to be a celebrity victim, as you said. He wanted people to feel sorry for him, to like him, to retweet him. But also he wanted to use the prism of his hatred for Donald Trump and all things Trump as the bedrock for this. They had to be two white Trump supporters in Making America Great caps who attacked him, because he knew that that would be the perfect vehicle to turn him into American hero. That actually, if he was attacked by Trump supporters who lynched him, or tried to lynch him with a noose and really, committed one of the worst hate crimes imaginable, then Jussie Smollett would become a hero, and he would be a heroic victim. And in fact, he went further. In the Robin Roberts interview, he said that he fought back against these two guys. Well, we've now seen the size of them. These are two very big men. And our hero, Jussie, fought back. So he's a victim, but a hero who also fought back. And I look at this whole story. I tweet every day, all day. And I write columns 2-3 times a week. I didn't say a word about this, Tucker, from the moment this story broke.
I didn't know.
Something about this stank from the moment it happened. And I just stayed very quiet. I waited and I watched and I waited and I watched. And all the time, more and more stuff came out, from him not releasing his phone to then releasing redacted records to so on and so on. And slowly but surely, the real story built up. And this guy had completely invented the whole attack. He'd staged it. He'd roped in his friends to do this. And I'm sorry, but I've already seen on social media people starting to feel sorry for this guy. We should cut him some slack. He's got mental health issues. That's always the first refuse of excuse for this kind of behavior. He's not mentally ill. He's greedy, and he's somebody who was craving attention. And a lot of the media, as I think is very apparent from this story, a lot of the mainstream media in America have gone so full on anti-Trump that they were prepared to suspend all journalistic integrity and credibility in the way they reported this story by just believing every word this guy said. And they did it, Tucker, because we're now in a culture where my truth is perceived to be the truth. And it's not. Time and again now we see people where their truth, their idea of a truth, is a complete lie. Jussie Smollett claimed to have been effectively lynched. Everybody followed up with this. All the top Democrats were tweeting, Kamala Harris to Cory Booker. It was a lynching. They were trying to lynch this guy. But it wasn't. The only thing that was lynched was the truth.
That's right. And the press abetted it, the channel that you and I once worked at, among them. Piers Morgan, such a smart summation, as always. It's great to see you. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.